Hello there and welcome. I'm Brian Baird, your host, and this is The Effective Way, where we do business at the speed of heart. And we're going to have a great conversation today. I have a friend of mine. I've known, Lois, I've known you a couple of years now at this point. I think
Yeah.
we got introduced by somebody named Jonathan that we both know, and then I've talked to you more than I've talked to Jonathan, and he's like right around the corner from me.
Funny how that works, right?
Yeah. Well, funny, haha, or I don't know, odd. I don't know, but anyway, the theme we have for everybody today is like, what is truly, or what is true mindset? And the reason why this is an important question to me is because I don't actually like the word mindset. It's, to me, it's like almost like you just intellectually willpower. To me, it's like making it all about willpower. And when you've done the work that I've done as a hypnotherapist and other forms of modalities I use to serve people and helping them on their journeys, you go, it's not an intellectual willpower thing. People have lots of things that need to be supported in their journeys to allow them to feel more authentic or reveal their authenticity, because it's in that place that they are able to make those adjustments.
Hmm.
Otherwise, traumas and all these other things that hang out in their journey, actually, no matter how much willpower you put into it, they will go back to the, what I'm going to call the set point in their heart. And we need to help them with heart level stuff. However, I know you've got a lot to add to this. So I just want to just say that's why I don't like the word mindset, because I see it's not about the mind per se. It's about the emotions that we trap inside of it, or are trapped inside of ourselves in our journey. And once we're able to release them, then okay, maybe you can play with mindset at that point. I still don't like the word. What do you think?
No, I'm with you. And I shifted. You could say a mind shift, right? I actually had a mind shift about mindset. Because with you, we both been down this journey as salespeople, entrepreneurs, and even in the healing space. Because I've coached a lot of coaches and healers, and I've coached a lot of people over the last, gosh, what year is it again? 22 years of my life. Since 2000, I've been coaching people in health and fitness and also in sales. So I've studied people's habits, and I've even created a sales formula that helps my clients get to, $20,000 months and 6 to 9 months guaranteed with your lead generation and sales strategy. And the first step is about mindset. And I got to be honest with you, 2 years ago, I saw mindset also very differently than I do now. So I had to go, since you talked about doing business at the speed of heart, I had to go within my heart mind, which was very, very scary for me. So scary for me to really understand, why am I here? And then I remembered, and I'd love to talk about all of this that I've remembered and that I've learned throughout the next hour or two with you, because I forgot. I got caught up in the Think and Grow Rich. I got caught up in the law of attraction. Now I call it the flaw of attraction. And I was always like beating my head against the wall, like something's not right here, something's not right here. But this is what we've been taught, right? All of the
Right.
gurus, Tony
Yeah.
Robbins,
All the formula stuff. And
yeah,
and some things are not served by a formula in the conventional way, at least. And
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So
so
I had to do a deep dive and a checkup from the proverbial neck up, but now I say from the heart up. Because I remembered, and I knew this years ago, 2007, I think I read a book. I have it on my shelf. Maybe I can't remember the title, but it was about the three brains and how we have a brain in our heart, a brain in our gut,
mhm.
and a brain in our head. And when they're not all connected, so we really have three minds, and then there's deeper layers to that I uncovered. That was like, oh, that's why I felt out of alignment.
Well, this is really kind of cool stuff because, first of all, uh, which we're here to talk about business. But ultimately, what we're
Oh,
really talking about is that, it's like I have this thing I'm working on something inside of the sales channel, which it probably should put me on your inside of your experience to support your people. And it's basically with operating with the premise is that if you're not conducting business or sales in particular with a posture of love, you do not deserve the deal and you should not get the deal. And the reason for that is because you're not serving the client, you're serving yourself. So, and so this is my objection to some of these formula process like Think and Grow Rich and other plans that are out there, and even some of the stuff like this. One of the pastors in California has a book called The Purpose Driven
Purpose
Life, and
driven life.
it's all about pushing people into this idea: is if you just believe a certain way, everything will be magically happening. And you go, no, you have to thrive in a certain way before
Hmm.
you actually thrive in all the ways they talk about. So anyway, I love the fact that this you had this perspective of the three brains or the three minds or the three, and there clearly is. Like you've heard the expression "trust your gut," so I'm going to throw that on the table. That has to do with the gut brain, right? And then you have you know what's in your heart, what do you feel, like that kind of thing. Well, that's because there is nerve endings and all this. This is some physiology, but it goes beyond physiology from my experience too, that there are things that we are physiologically subjected to, yet our conversations go way past, if we're willing to do this, our conversations go way past the logical willpower premise. And that's where you're going to go with this, right?
Absolutely. It's quantum physics at its finest. And I'm not an expert, just so we're clear, I'm not an expert on quantum physics,
No,
for
no, because I was going to throw a few formulas at you and see if you could pass.
Well, and just to give people context, so I've been very successful in sales. I used to, in real estate, I made $250,000 a year. I had work-life balance as a realtor. Believe it or not, it is possible.
I don't believe it. Don't believe it.
I didn't work nights and weekends. I was leading with my heart. I had healthy boundaries, all of the things. And then something happened. I lost everything in the recession and it shut my heart down. It triggered old traumas and it set me on a path that I went on from about 2007 to 2021. So just a year ago. I know we're recording this, by the way, on the summer solstice, 2022. Whoop, whoop. Longest sunshine day of the year. So I'm enjoying that. But I thought I was living my best life. I was made 40 grand 1 month and I love serving people, right? So it wasn't like I even had the wrong clients. I wasn't a pushy salesperson. But what I realized was I had found myself hating my marriage, thinking I'd be divorced. This was just over a year ago. Working too much, became a binge drinking workaholic. And here I was making all this money, living the life in Southern California. And I realized for that 14, 15-year period, I had been, to your point, focused on this mindset that I thought was like broken and I needed to fix it. So I just needed to read more books. I just needed to buy more courses. I just needed to do more,
Now,
right?
as an outsider looking in on your journey, and I don't know you that well, it's not like you and I hang out. We talk. So as an outsider looking in is that I knew you were unhappy. Never, and then the other thing that is clear to me is that you were bouncing along in that willpower version. You were one of the busiest people I've known. It's still to a degree very busy. And I think you found
That's a
more
swear word.
balance.
Nope, I don't do that anymore. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was my point. I came back to my truth, which was the three minds,
Hmm.
the mind, the body, the spirit, and then, going even deeper into more of that quantum realm, the healing of the wounds that my wounded ego back in the day said, you are not enough. You got to work hard to make your money because that was what was modeled to me as a
Oh,
kid.
for sure.
So that was where that but I wasn't like that before 2007. So I became a private investigator when I made all that money. And by that point, I wasn't working even nights and weekends anymore, actually. So I was coming back to myself, my truth, which is healthy boundaries, living the life I love, living my true nature and purpose. But it took me a year, Brian, to really go within my heart mind and really, 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 really look at a lot of shadow, a lot of darkness, a lot of shame, guilt, trauma, grief. I've lost both of my parents. My brother died of alcoholism in the pandemic. And then I've also had 10 friends like and at least 7 of them were really close friends who committed suicide. So I had a lot of grief, also unresolved grief, that
Mhm.
was driving me to avoid the pain. So that's where I want to start with mindset. A lot of people, they'll buy Think and Grow Rich, or they'll go to their 30th Tony Robbins seminar, right? To hear the same thing. And they're just going outside of themselves to find the answers. And
Right.
that's what I got caught up in,
Right.
right?
I think it's possible that, like when you have a certain kind of awareness, then brings people will bring these ideas to you and you can go, I can run with that. And it in many ways it's an intellectual thing that you embrace because what we're doing is, and I've been there myself, so this is why I'm talking about it. It's like you swing through that heart space, you swing through it, but you keep sweeping under the carpet all the things that you still didn't get to want to work with, but you still wanted that success, even though those things were still hanging out there. So, like in my own personal journey, until I was able to finally work, and grief was a huge key word for me, and along the way. So it's like until you were able to finally work on this aspect of who you are, what's been happening during the course of your journey, and learning to embrace the feelings in a healthy way instead of sweeping them under the carpet or letting them create fear-based mechanisms in your journey. Until you're able to release that stuff, that swing through, you'll snap back, which is what you're telling me happened to you. Like you had these even years of willpower-based success,
Hmm.
and then back you came, right?
Yeah. And I'll tell you really quickly how it shifted. So just so everybody knows, the happy ending, right? Haha, of the story, we've been brainwashed there too. But where I'm at today, as opposed to February 2021, so that's like about 14, 15, 16 months
Mhm.
later, best point of my marriage, best sex life. Sorry, I have to say that we've ever had, and we've been together as of today, 14 years. We met on the summer solstice. My true nature and purpose is shining brightly. And I know you saw that my aura, my light has shifted, my health and vitality. I've lost 30 pounds since February of last year. And most of that actually started coming off in October, November of last year when I found the book, You're Not Broken. And I'll talk about that. So I
Okay.
really, really got to the root cause of the unhappiness. Reading Think and Grow Rich would have not done that for me. I had to go in deep, inward, not say a bunch of affirmations and, you know, all of the things. It was like embodied shifting. So being able to be in my heart more and to release the trauma, release all the things, but embodiment was the biggest shift I had around what mindset really is. So we as a society, and where I was at when I hit my proverbial rock bottom, all the things that I mentioned, terrible marriage, felt like a worthless mother, making all this money, but what was it doing for me? Not really truly happy. And I was traveling a lot, all of the stuff, but I wasn't living my true nature and purpose. That was the core of it.
So let's
I had,
let's put that in perspective, because
hmm
this is probably the meat of everything when it comes to finding out what a healthy mindset really means, is
hmm
being in your true nature and your purpose, your true purpose. That's what I was saying before about authenticity. And it's not like we are mindfully inauthentic, but yet we will mindfully live in the inauthentic space because that's all we know.
that's the structure.
Mhm.
It's the structure that has been created. And this is not a victim statement. This is just an observation, Brian. It's the structure that we have been under for at least a couple thousand, but probably a lot more is so masculine dominant. So like we have two hemispheres in our brain, right? The feminine and the masculine. And the masculine has dominated for far too long. And when I lost everything in the recession, I that was my my modeling as a child was you got to work hard for your money, logical numbers, set goals, achieve, 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 do,
Mhm.
do, do, do. Whereas the right side of the brain, when I was balanced, I was creative, I was intuitive, I had fun, I was into music and creativity and all of the things. And so that was the biggest thing that I took away from the start that helped kick off my awakening, was understanding, oh, wait, that's right. We do have two hemispheres in our brain. And that right side one is actually really fun. And I have not been using that side of my brain very much, have I?
So this is different than left brain, right brain discussion, right? You were talking a bit more like not like hard lines in the sand, scientific feminine and masculine divides, but we do have these two yin and yang type energies floating around in our consciousness. And
Yeah,
it
I
is
could recommend a couple good books on it. That actually is what brought me back to understanding that. And you
okay.
can, anybody right now, I'll just tell you, go Google left versus right brain. Left brain, and they don't say this, but this is what I teach my clients now, is left brain is the masculine energy. I'm not saying male. I said masculine.
Okay.
Right
Got it. Yep.
is the feminine energy.
So we are
That's
talking about the actual hemisphere divide in this
mhm,
case aligning with, because I've seen other philosophies on this thing.
mhm.
So in many ways makes sense. Like, we have a creative side and we have a sort of a detail side.
Logical, logical, yeah,
Yeah.
math, numbers. That's the training. That's the inspiration, constipation. If this is the one I'm visually on left, and this is my left side of the brain. If I'm always focused on the numbers of my business, attending another seminar, another webinar, right? That's what I think it was Zig Ziglar that I got to give credit to where credit's due, but inspiration, constipation, that's why people keep going to these buying more courses but not getting the results, because there's that logical training side, but then to be able to create what you just learned, how do you create and bring and birth and put that into with your feeling, with your authenticity, with your intuitive artistic side? And we all have both sides. It's just the structure of society says you're broken, you have to
Right.
fix yourself, so therefore yes.
And certain kinds of conformance are seemingly pushed upon people, and it starts at a fairly young age too, right? So parental and grandparental and generational programming of sorts, where we're like moving along with we always done it this way, that's what you're going to do, or we've never done it this way, so you can't do that either. So you start living the voices of others instead of your authentic voice, and we're clouded by all these other stories. That's the real challenge. That's why I would say, when you have that title of that amazing book, You're Not Broken,
Mhm.
then inside of that theme is the idea is that you are what you were supposed to be, yet there's more to be revealed, right? It's really
Yeah.
about a revelatory journey.
Yeah, and that's where you're hitting the nail on the head, just to bring it full circle, going beyond the two hemispheres. That's what helped me get back to myself. But then I read a book called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, about the brain, mind, and body and the healing of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And you said something that I do want to let people know, and I found this to be true. And I do talk about this with my clients now that I'm getting the magnetic mind certification. We carry 7 generations of trauma and baggage and ancestral DNA, 7 generations back on both, your father and your mother's side. And depending on who you are, you know me, I am a little esoteric, okay, a lot. If you also have past lives, that's a whole nother set of
Yep. And I
stuff.
used to be skeptical about that subject, yet the University of Virginia psychology department is actually has over 1,000 case files with people who have documentably past life data swirling around their current life. So it may be some more room for skepticism on some stories than others, but there are some that are so profoundly knowledge based, So I just want to make sure when somebody hears that we're talking about this, is that there is some scientific endeavors exploring this material right now, because it seems to have huge weight in some people's journeys, and And there's no reason for us not to, if we accept the fact that somebody else might have an awareness of something, that we might actually be carrying something we're unaware of from a past life.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and that I just want to say that, and I love you and being in this. This is a conversation, and even 6 months ago, Brian, I would have been afraid to say some of this
Mhm.
stuff because I wasn't living my true nature and purpose. I was good girl, perfectionist, Lois. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. May I have another? And I got over that. So just letting you guys know, if I can get over that, you can too.
Right.
And and,
So you
and
guys,
part
let's say, I've known intense Lois. This is a very warm Lois. This is beautiful.
Well, and can I tell you more about
Sure, sure.
what happened next? I just love telling stories. So, because I want this to be inspirational, guys, for you. The pain, the suffering, and all the things that I faced over the last 16 months. I want to share and pour. I want to be a lighthouse and a beacon of hope because like Brian said, I was in a really, really dark space and a very different person. And now I just want to share my story and love on people. And I see a lot now. I see everybody is actually going through some version of what I have gone through. And I'm still in that process. I'm not finished yet, right? It's a journey of healing. And that's why I said, if you think about it, 7 generations on mom and dad's side, potential past lives, and this lifetime. So when I read that book, The Body Keeps the Score, it was really sobering. It was really intense. In fact, truth be told, I couldn't finish reading it. It was so intense. The things that people have endured in this lifetime. And I started looking into plant medicine. Full disclosure, I had to start there because I didn't know how to go inside my heart. I was that closed off. I was that numb. Like when my mom died and my brother died and my friend committed suicide, the most recent one,
Okay, so let's talk.
I couldn't cry.
Let's share some details on. So there are different plant medicine journeys. You can travel off to South America and do a whole ayahuasca thing, or you can do
Yeah,
DMT and psilocybins under medically supervised.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can, or someplace in between. And what's interesting about these things is that it reveals to us a lot about ourselves. And remember, part of what we're really talking about is the idea of the true mindset discussion is about is connected to our ability to be wholly authentic. And that means that's a revelatory process. We can't create authenticity. It's something we encounter in our journeys and learn to embrace and go and dig in on. So so the power of having plant medicine can be is it can, while all these other traumas may be floating around in our journey, it can give you a deeper connection to that true self so that you at least have a big carrot to go for
Hmm.
and have a better understanding about how these other things aren't really your stories anymore. So I'm just saying that's the value of plant medicine.
Yeah.
And there
It,
could be other values too, like, conversations with God or whatever some people may experience or whatever. But I just wanted to point out is that mostly what I think is happening is people are getting a much better sense of identity, authentic identity.
well, the plants are our teachers, and I'm not talking about, hey, I went down in the, did some shrooms in the, backyard. This was like shamanic healers
Hmm.
supporting me in healing and
Hmm.
releasing the trauma. So there was a lot of somatic purging, crying, physical shaking, and of course, once I got to the ayahuascas, you can't avoid it with grandmother ayahuasca. There was purging on both ends, and by releasing that, some of it ancestral, actually probably a lot of it. I could tell you stories, but I don't know how weird you want me to go. Um, but I was able to release so much and I felt my heart for the first time in probably 14 years, whenever, when the recession happened and it triggered a major childhood trauma response. I'm
Hmm.
not good enough. I'm not worthy of success. I gotta work hard for my money
Right.
and not ask for what I want truly in life and then shut down that right side of the brain. And so that's why I just want to bring full circle here so you guys are understanding
Yep.
that
Well,
that's why.
I once had somebody describe this sensation you're describing as taking a cage off your heart.
Hmm.
because so I'm just giving a visual thing is that the stories and emotions and those things that wreak havoc on our ability to perceive authenticity, because they're stories we often live by too. They're rules. Some of fear, most of them have fear-based attributes, but whether they're installed by our parents or past life or generational things or
It actually doesn't matter, but it's
yeah,
there.
it doesn't matter. Absolutely
It's
true.
there. Yeah.
And so and it doesn't have to be plant medicine alone. I mean, that's why hypnotherapy does
Oh,
things. That's why coaching does things and
yeah.
things like that. It's
Yeah.
just so happened in your particular case is that you had such an intense, overwhelming thing, and you were so used to having that cage around your heart, you needed something else like the plant medicine to allow you to get back to that spot.
Yeah.
So,
100%. Yeah. 100%. And it helped me start that journey. And then I was reminded, of those two sides of the brain. So I started doing more of the creative. It took time, right, to tap into my passion. I started drumming. I joined a choir. All of these things that then I showed up. This going back to your point about, I call myself a transformational sales coach, right? I'm able to show up more passionate, more authentic for everyone, not obviously my husband and our relationship couldn't be any better, and we've both been doing the work, but for as within, so without. So as within my heart, I was stuck. I was emotionally constipated, if you will. I love that cage around the heart. And then once I started releasing that trauma, then and only then, I want to clarify, because again, going back to the flaw of attraction and that think and grow rich philosophy, again, not bad things, okay? They can work great in a lot of therapies, hypnotherapy, all those things can work great. But if you're so stuck in your body and you're on autopilot, that's where I
and
was at.
and there are some people they need to try several modalities before things like even plant medicine to me is a modality. So I there's no hard fast one way to do these things. So
And that's a good point. Disclaimer, you all got to find the right formula for you. And then a friend, after I'd done about 6 months of plant medicine, and I found a somatic therapist. So if you guys Google somatic therapy, that also helped me release more of the trauma and the things that were holding me hostage in that emotionally, I like to say emotionally constipated. I just made that up. I like that, path. And then I read the book You're Not Broken by Christopher Michael Duncan. And it's really important to say the author's name because I recommend it to a client and they ended up buying this other one that I'm not saying it was bad, but it's a really heavy book written by a therapist about trauma. And that's not the one I'm talking about. I'm talking
yeah,
about the one.
actually, I have that other book, the one you I have that book, and they focus a lot on alcoholism and other things that
Yeah.
are
Yeah. So
um,
I would recommend the Christopher Michael Duncan. And it broke open something inside of me. And I realized, wow, because he talks about the ego, the subconscious, also known as the unconscious, and then the superconscious.
mhm.
And I went back and I was like, oh my gosh, because you hear so many, there's Joe Dispenza's and there's all these people talking about the power of the subconscious mind. So, and
Right.
I did work with a subconscious mind coach, and to a degree it helped, but it was really when after I started purging the trauma, releasing it somatically, I was like, oh, that's right. So he brought me back to my super conscious, which again, zone of genius. Some might call it higher self. I prefer to call it my higher self. Some would even say intuition, psychic. There's no wrong definition. I just want to throw that out there. I think you Google super conscious and you figure out which is the best version for you. But I realized, Brian, I was like, before 2007, I did have a balanced ego, a balanced subconscious, and a balanced superconscious because the superconscious is the river that carries us through, and the boat with the crew, that's the subconscious, that's the feelings, that's the emotions that drive us. And 95% of the time, we don't even realize it. It's so unconscious. And then that ego, if it's a wounded ego too, whew, watch out, because that's the captain barking orders at the crew. And I realized that, oh, I forgot about that. And so reading that book and then now getting the certification helped me connect with the super conscious mind. So going all the way back to when we started this conversation, there was a long road to get there for me, but that was when mindset changed for me. And I was like, oh my God, that's when I had the Midas touch. That's when I loved authentically and had no judgments about anyone, especially myself, right?
Mhm.
So we are the biggest judges of ourselves first, and then we judge others. It all starts as within, so without. So once I got that, boom, since October, I've been stating these daily affirmations. Again, affirmations on their own don't work, but I was able to
Thank you
then,
for saying that.
yep, I was able to lose my 25 pounds. I was able to dramatically change the relationship with myself. So then now I have amazing, authentic relationship and friends again,
Right.
and the marriage thing and my children, and they're getting the best parts of me. So that's what I wanted to really hit home with today was, you and I agree. We don't like the word mindset because it's been thrown around way too much and abused and not really understood. But now I'm like,
Well, the challenge with the word mindset for me is it um, is it leaves off the table doing a certain kind of work, like you've just described. For example, you had this thing where prior to 2008, you had a huge circle through that world of feeling authentic and empowered and of low friction experience and these other things, but underneath the hood there was still a lot of dirty engine. And then eventually the engine kind of went, whether you want to call it the trigger of 2008 or whatever the case may be. And
mhm.
so, because what if you had had an opportunity to do the work you've been with the later part of your journey now, you might have had an earlier recovery. I'm just going to use the word loosely because recovery means a whole lot of different things to different people. But you might
Yeah.
have had an earlier recovery from some of those intense challenges that kind of flew into place.
Yeah.
So what I really just want to stress is, like, for example, you had just mentioned affirmations. A lot of people think is that all I have to do is say this one thing every day and life gets better. Well, first of all, affirmations have been scientifically proven to have only a few minutes of benefit.
Hmm.
So unless you plan to do an affirmation over and over and over again, and most of us don't even remember to do the affirmation the first time, let alone over and over and over again, it's going to have limited. It'll have limited benefits no matter what. So.
Well, you know what? That's why I mentioned, and thank you for reminding me to bring this even reiterate it deeper, is that body mind success, right? I had to embody my affirmations. So examples of what I used and now what I use with my clients. And I help them write their own and I help them create their own meditations
Mhm.
because not all of mine are going to work for everyone, but I choose the end result of health and vitality. So I'm going to use myself as an example and share, since you mentioned the word recovery, I was basically a borderline alcoholic. And I'm not a fan of AA. I personally feel like that program is antiquated, and I feel like there might even need to be a new version, and maybe I might help create it at some point because I've lost a lot of friends who went into recovery and it didn't get to the root of their needs. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep working with plant medicine, somatic therapy, and I'm going to embody these affirmations every day. Embody. So, what does that mean? So, I'd close my eyes, I'd state them. I would, of course, write them out. I choose the end result of health and vitality. And I kid you not, because I don't know if I can swear on here, otherwise, I would have said something else.
You can do whatever you want. I'm not monetizing, so.
I shit you not. Literally, it wasn't overnight, right? Because there's no such thing as an overnight transformation. In my little cocoon, every day there were subtle shifts. And I was like, huh, I'm not craving alcohol today. Or I was so mindful, I was now choosing to go for a walk or a run. Or I was choosing to shut down my computer because you know all these notifications spike your cortisol, and that's one of the reasons I also gained the 30 pounds during the pandemic was because you know, my body was in fight or flight all the time, right? And then you can't
Right,
lose weight.
right.
I mean, I coached thousands of people on weight loss and marathons and all that, so I knew all
It's
this,
just,
Brian.
we know better and don't always treat ourselves the same way. That goes back to some of those stories that we carry with us.
Yeah.
And
So
then
I
this,
was able
and
to,
if you don't mind my intersecting or
yeah.
interceding here, is that I wanted to add something for you. I think that'll make it easier for you to carry this discussion about alcohol. Is
Mhm.
we all medicate.
Oh, none of you.
Every last one of us medicates. Some to numb or cope, some to heal. So one medication is I want to go for a walk. And another medication is I just need to like somehow or other distance myself from these feelings I'm feeling or whatever the case may be, because that's how I'm going to cope.
Avoid,
I
yeah.
believe that, first of all, I don't believe anybody is ever an alcoholic or everyone is ever an addict. They may suffer from alcoholism. They may suffer from other addictions. I don't believe they are an addict because I don't like the judgment that goes into the word. I believe that when you say you're not broken, this is another truth inside of that whole context, is that you're not broken. It's just that you may suffer from the medication process because you're still suffering by being a coper. And it's not a judgment that you're coping. Nobody's shown you the path to
Hmm.
being able to release yourself to a healing path. So anyway, I'm and just intersecting like I almost always do, interceding with new information or other vectors of ideas that just because for what you say is just triggers me. I'm going, and this is what I mean by triggers me is that when you said I was a borderline alcoholic, I'm going, no, no, no. You may have been borderline suffering from alcoholism, but you were not an alcoholic, or not any time were you, because I just don't believe we are those identities. We suffer from the things that may occlude our authentic identity, may
Love that.
block us.
You won't get any arguments from me. I'll just say amen to that. And that's where, you know, labels and all these things that we take on that impact our mind. I was so grateful to come from a true choice, which, and I think you'll appreciate this, having your background also hypnotherapy, right? Before, I was always like, how much money can I spend at the acupuncturist? How many times can I go and get fixed by the chiropractor? Maybe I should hire another weight loss coach. And I did that actually at the beginning of like April of last year, and it wasn't working. Shocker, because I wasn't coming from true choice. First mindset was I have a problem, I need to fix it with, you know, like you said, the labels and all of the things. Whereas here, my super conscious said, oh, well, you're already healthy and vital. You just got to own it and embody it.
Oh, I love that. What you just said. Let's say it again. Just repeat that.
Hopefully, I say it exactly the same because it was just
It
channeling
doesn't
was
have to be exactly the
coming
same. It just
through.
has to.
Because before, I was coming from a place of spending all the money on the supplements, all of the things, all of the trying to fix a problem.
Mhm.
Now, because I was coming from my heart and my super conscious was coming from directing the ship, if you will, instead of a wounded ego with that thought it was broken, I was able to embody my health and vitality and come from that truth, that authenticity. And
I think that's pro- just beautifully said. And inside of this whole thing is we remind everybody this is about heart-centered business. Although I have another show where you could have come on and we could have had this whole conversation
I know,
just
I know,
as
I
we're
know.
doing now. But the thing that's really powerful about this thing here is that um,
And I can
what,
give you examples now of how that's changed my business. So you
yeah,
just
and
tell me.
let's do that. But I just want to sort of say is a lot of people start on this journey. I can't tell you how many people I go, I want to be an entrepreneur, or I'm an entrepreneur, or whatever that they want to do. And it's in their mind, they've got this idea is that I can just study things and do things and I can become successful and whatever the case may be. Someplace along the way, there's going to be a crash and burn if you haven't done the work we're talking about. That's where we're going with this, right?
Yes. Thank you.
Because you can have all these
Hmm.
successes and all those other things, but if you are not authentic, you might be experiencing low quality relationships. You might be just a jerk. You might be successful at the monetary sense or the conventional success story, but you might be deeply unhappy, and I look at my own journey, some decades of being driven by money as the measure of my success and making and spending millions, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then someplace along the way, there was this thing like there was not enough money in the world to compensate for how I was feeling. So my crash was a different kind, but yet the crash is going to come.
Oh, 100%. 110%. I just had a podcast. My podcast is called Healthy and Wealthy and Wise, which is ironic.
Right.
I named it that in April, or no, I'm sorry. Well, I thought of the name in April of 2020, but I launched my podcast in July.
Mhm.
And oh boy, was I not really fully embodying that, but it was the best. Like, it was like my superconscious was like, okay, we're going to give her this one. Because as I was doing my podcast, I'm like, I don't feel in alignment with this title, but all right, I guess this is what the
Well, and
title's going to
that
be.
brings up this thing is that you can talk the talk for a certain distance, and it will be supportive to a certain point that I'm going to just argue with the universe, God, the divine, the source, whatever it is. And I'm a person who, by and large, I won't say I was atheist, but I was more like, I'm certainly a-religious, and I was like, these kinds of conversations would have been very uncomfortable. Like, ooh, this is divine you're going to talk to? No, but the idea here is that there is a relationship with the universe, whatever that means to you,
Oh yeah.
and the universe is going to correct you or call you on your stuff.
Well, it was so beautiful. It was perfect. It was like the universe kind of teasing me, right?
Mhm.
Because that's what convicted me. And guess what? My guests have changed. So my guest on Friday is a guy, Barry Lynch. He talked about he's built two, not one, but two 7-figure businesses and was depressed. So I was like, whoa, I'm glad I didn't even get that far because I was headed in that direction and I'd probably be dead by now, actually. He's amazing. And we talked about the paradigm shifts. And that's why I know you had seen something I posted in Facebook about
Mhm.
how a heart-centered business and a true being of light, because that's what I see all of us as in our business. We are these light beings out there to help find a need and fill it. And money's just a benefit of that, right? We
It's a
get paid.
byproduct, and
Yeah.
it can be a significant byproduct.
Oh
It's
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
so
And I do believe when you are in your bliss and you are shining your light and you are in alignment, although I also do believe there are karmic lessons and other reasons that that wouldn't happen, but I do believe you can make amazing amounts of money serving, the planet. But my point being is by having guests like him on my show, having these different conversations and showing up differently in my space, because
Mhm.
you've seen me, I've gone into my cocoon and
Mhm.
now I'm coming out. And I just did a show yesterday, a podcast monologue, impromptu, and I had so many people commenting on it. It wasn't scheduled because the old Lois always had her things scheduled, right? It was just a live broadcast. And now I have a bunch of people wanting to sign up for my class this week and having amazing, authentic reconnections with people. And I actually had a gal call me. I'm not going to say her name because I don't know if she'd want me to, but I had a friend from my past. Haven't talked to her in, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, Brian. She called me because most people don't do that anymore. They'll just message you or they'll text you. She called me and said, I don't know what you've been doing, but I saw you differently today and we've got to talk. So, even though the last 16 months have been bumpy and hellacious and dark night of the soul at times, it was so worth the price of admission, going back to sales and being able to now have conversations with people as the real super conscious creator that I was born to be, and I believe we all were. Just sometimes we have to get lost along the way and the structure of our society is kind of foobar, but at the end of the day it was pretty sweet to have
Well,
that phone call.
let me enhance this point you're making here. If you don't, if I could do it again.
I didn't. I'm surprised you even asked permission. Sure, go ahead.
So, one of the things that has become of paramount um, knowledge to me is that, and there's a reason why I want to bring this up, is because you had described these things in terms of it hellacious, intense, dark, these kinds of energy. These are low energy words to describe a portion of that 16-month, I'm going to call it a turnaround that you were experiencing.
It was my
And
cocoon. It was my cocoon.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
my
So you were entrenched in that space, which, by the way, I've done that not too long ago myself when I was doing my deeper processing with the word grief, or with the
cocoon.
experience of grief. Is that I just kind of, I, I took grief with me. I went into that kind of a cocoon as you described, and just took, and grief and I had conversations, and grief and I, you know, laughed and joked, and we cried, and we did all these weird things together because I had swept grief under the carpet for almost my entire life, and it finally came back in a very profoundly un can't can't avoid it anymore way. And so I was going with this is that I don't want people thinking, oh, it's going to be a dark, painful experience to do some transition. Here's what's going to really happen. One thing that, and anybody who's done athletic work, and you have, Lois, anybody who's done other kinds of growth, like intellectual, like you have, Lois, anybody
Mm-hmm.
who's now done this work, which we could possibly label spiritual or superconscious work, which you
Hmm.
have, Lois,
Hmm.
there's there is a stretching period which feels very uncomfortable.
Yeah, can I
And
use a
then
new phrase?
after the stretch,
Mm-hmm.
that's where joy is, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. Every time you stretch, you will experience joy.
Yeah. And thank you for that. Yeah, it's expansion and contraction. It's just no different than when I was giving birth to my children. You gotta go through the contractions, which are pretty painful, and then come out on the other side. The reason I put it in that light, and I hope you guys all hear me, is I'm so sick and tired of the positive Pollyanna affirmations BS, and just read
Mhm,
another book and it'll all be warm and
mhm,
fuzzy, because that's what I see. People will say, I will be happy someday when I get to wherever they think they
mhm.
need to get to. And then it is because of that philosophy. I am with you 100%. Amen, brother. I swept so much grief and stuff under the rug because I thought, with this brain, this ego
Mhm.
and subconscious, that I had to fake it till I made it, that I couldn't talk about my shame, my guilt, my pain, and my suffering. And I'm talking more and more. And now my clients are like, oh my God, I feel that way too. Thank you for giving me permission to speak my truth about that, because everyone thinks they got to wear this mask. I've got all my shit together, Brian.
The mask is another inauthentic thing, and we're taught to be masks. So that's it's not, you're not broken, and you're not at fault. It's not your fault, right? It's just that as the more you become aware, the more opportunity you have to own the real
Hmm.
you. As you used, I think the word you said before was ownership. To own
Hmm.
the real you, to reveal the real you, and then own the real you, and stop letting. You don't have to let these masks have any access to your journey. After at a certain point, you're able to start to release these things. And I think, and I'm using my own journey is you can release things at a personal level. You don't need a coach or whatever. I'll just tell you, it's extremely slow to do it that way. So one of the beautiful parts about this is your journey, and now you're doing these kinds of coaching and guiding functions for people who want to be in business. Is that you bring to the table this sort of extremely fresh view, and refreshing for hopefully whoever is joining you in these pursuits, is to say you cannot just do this system and experience all the success you want, because the system will only take you so far. You need to, it's almost like people who win the lottery in 2 or 3 years, the money's all gone because they started as that financial level, at the set point of that financial level. They're going to go back to that because they didn't do any of the work to become the next level. And this is a property of the human condition. It's not a blame game. It's not like
Yeah.
you're weak if you do this, or it's none of that's the truth. The beautiful part about this is if you can work with a coach or somebody who can guide you or mentor you through the process. And so I'm just doing this to say, because I firmly believe I've seen you in action. I know you know how to support people, and now all that's really been added is this additional, more than just talk the talk now, additional walk the walk, heart centered, compassionate understanding of how you can support them on their journeys.
Yeah, I brought the feminine side back, the balance, because we have been the structure, the problem solving structure is the masculine side energy again,
Mhm.
different from male men, but it's really all about that side. And now, as a transformational sales coach, as I'm calling myself, is we still got to work on that mindset. And again, now different kind of mindset than I was coaching on before, but helping people understand that you become a magnet when you are coming from that super conscious creation space. You don't have to
Mhm.
work so hard. You don't have to do the long hours. You don't have to do the 50,000 webinars, or, I'm being silly, but you know what I mean? And you can just magnetize people. That's where I was before 2007. Now Lois is back and wanting to help people post pandemic, because I really think, if we're honest, a lot of us woke up and realized in the pandemic that we might not be in love with the version of ourselves that had been happening pre-pandemic. And this may not resonate with everyone, and that's perfect. But I have this really strong intuition that everybody's looking more to, back to the point that we were chatting about on Facebook yesterday. They're looking to become more conscious and truly coming from a place of heart centered and loving and less money driven. And yet, let's
Mhm.
be honest, we still got to make money until the system
Yeah.
change, and who knows
And I
about.
don't even think people are, they want to be more conscious, but I don't even think that they fully understand that that's what they want, because I think technically it's what they need. And what they want is to, like, I just want to be happy. I don't want to be stressed all the time. I don't want to feel this way, whatever that is.
Thank
And
you.
they
Yeah.
and they don't fully understand what that is. So to your point is that ultimately what they're looking for is to stop pursuing just the almighty paycheck. The great resignation is an indication of what you're talking about right now. Is
Yeah.
that all these people are saying, I am done, absolutely done
Take this
working.
job and shove it.
I'm done with working for just a paycheck because I am miserable. And if it wasn't for the pandemic, they might have kept on going on until it made them sick, or they got old, prematurely aged, or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And now you've got a whole bunch of people out there going, I too can serve. I can show up for myself and others, my family. I don't know what that means yet. I just know that there's something more. And then so you've got this amazing platform for guiding people at specific levels how to launch. So my job, by the way, is when it comes to the business angle, is helping people understand what their authentic stories are.
Hmm.
Because as you know now, as you're willing to share your authentic story, that's where people go, I didn't know you could even talk about that. I actually, one of my favorite stories is a financial services, a couple that did financial services. They were actually almost bankrupt themselves. They're helping other people with their money, and they were at each other's throats. It was a miserable journey that was going on there. When they were able to, like, reach in and find that authentic versions of themselves and then share the story, which you talk to financial services people, they're told to be stoic, and you're a pro.
You don't air your dirty laundry.
All they did was air the history of their dirty laundry. They don't have dirty laundry now. And in the financial services model, there's something that's commonly called assets under management,
Mm.
AUM. They went from almost zero to like $300 million in assets under management in 2 years. Why? Because they were authentic now. So this is a really important thing. And so part of what embedded in the coaching that you're doing now is this ability to give people this access to to better understanding, and at least finding places to go to find information. And if you want me to plug it in some way in what you're doing, let me know. I'll be glad to help. So but idea here is that our journeys um, become, when those stretches, we get those periods of joy. The thing is, joy is not a permanently sustaining thing. You can have more access to it and more frequency of it. You're always going to go back to, well, you need a new level of growth, a new level of stretch, a new level of experience, a new level, whatever the case may be. And the beautiful part about this one is, and I've said this before, I think I even said it when you were on one of my radio broadcasts in New York metro area. Um, the thing that was actually fairly transformative for me was when I finally let this phrase sink in, because I didn't trust anybody.
Mm.
I didn't want a mentor because I couldn't trust a mentor and I couldn't be seen as weak anyway. I already know that stuff. Like I had that going on in my journey. And it was like, I don't,
People do.
nobody needs to show me. I can figure it out myself. But remember what I said before. Yes, you can figure stuff out for yourself. It's very slow way. So a smart person learns from their mistakes. That's what the slow ass way is. A smart person learns from the mistakes. A wise person learns from the mistakes of others.
Mm-hmm.
So you, Lois, have had this amazing journey, and you can now, by virtue of swinging in and out for the last 20 some odd years in this brushing with your superconscious and all these other things, and finally having a recognized steady state conversation with it makes it so you're having a much more, first of all, you're happier, you're more balanced or harmon. I'm going to use the word harmony because balance means nothing to me. You're more harmonistic, you're more polished in your spirit, and more vulnerable, which makes people learn from you. Therefore, they can make themselves into wise people. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Healthy and wealthy and wise. And by being able to really fully embrace the journey instead of ignoring the parts that we don't want to look at.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you right now. I'll tell everybody that's out there is that which you ignore when it comes to your personal development will become a louder and louder and louder thing until you either it kills you or you get it.
Well, and that's the thing. I hated the phrase when I heard it because I knew it and I didn't like it. But I'm gonna say it, so some of you might not like it. Just warning you, preparing you. What you resist persists.
Yep.
And so I do believe, my purpose has been very, very clear to me because I've had all my friends that committed suicide. My parents, my brother, they all visited me on these plant medicine journeys and said, "You are our voice. You are a voice, and you are healing things that we couldn't heal." And so they cheered me on and gave me the confidence. No coach really gave me that, just being transparent. And it was just like, so it's like I have such a different perspective now of suicide and mental health, and I don't like the word either, addiction, and I really want to, my big 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 dream in the future down the road is to be able to, not right now I'm healing the sales community, I'm helping people tap into their super conscious and take aligned action daily
Mhm.
and not be the binge drinking workaholic that I found myself to be, and improve their lives in so many ways. But then someday I really would love to have 7-day retreats where people change their relationship with grief, addiction, and
Oh,
mental health
let's do
challenges.
let's do something together on that one.
Sure.
So, because
That's why I'm sharing.
so
I don't think I told you that before, but that's been on my heart since I started feeling my heart again. And it's funny because that's actually was something on my heart back in the 2000s. I knew that I knew that I knew. And this is, I want everyone to hear this. I am so grateful for these last 15 years of what I call my dark ages in a joking way. Okay. It's all beautiful because you can't have the sun without the darkness. You can't have the shadow without the light. And so by fully embracing and being curious with compassion, I looked at that and was like, huh, something is not right here. And thankfully what I resisted persisted, and I had to finally look at it. And I'm so grateful, Brian, because if I would have stayed the, fairly positive Pollyanna, going to the Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, and the Tony Robbins things that I was doing in my late 20s, early 30s, and skipped this 14 to 15 year worth the price of admission, dark night of the soul journey, coming out on the other side, fully understanding it, fully embracing it, fully owning it, and changing my relationship with grief, shame, and all the guilt and the judgment that I had for going through all that. Now I have bigger capacity, bigger heart, bigger light to shine and help people. And that's what I want to help people really understand is it's okay to look at the messiness and to tap into it and love yourself through it. That's the heart mind work that I really want to help people, do, because you can sell anything at any point in time, that if you're not coming from that space and understanding maybe even a little bit more why you had to, got to, chose to. I believe I chose to go through that. That's just my belief and what my ancestors have shown me. That's that's how I got to really truly understanding my true nature and purpose. I had to go through that. I had to. I believe our world had to go through the pandemic so that it would bring us to our knees and stop screwing around with the fake pieces of ourselves that weren't really serving us to begin with.
It would be a really not so pretty thing if we didn't look at the lives that were sacrificed for the pandemic and learn how to embrace that for the fact that as we are here, we were not meant to be just survivors. We were absolutely meant to be thriving in this process, and that's kind of a way we can honor those people who the pandemic stole, in my opinion.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely. Don't,
and
yeah, absolutely. I see that as like people who went to war and battle for us. I honor the lost souls. Oh, by the way, my husband became a ghost whisperer and had a lot of those lost souls that died of the pandemic visiting him in the middle of the night. That's another, if you want to interview
no,
him.
no, wait. I was going to tell you this. That I was watching some of the things you were doing with your husband. Is you were even interviewing him on Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, and you did something specific for him in another capacity. And I'm going, we should find out. We should. That's an area where it would probably be maybe even whatever label one people want to put on it. It's still worth having the conversation, right? I saw, yes, if you want to reach, let him know I'm interested in having him on my other show. That would be a great conversation to have out there. When we started, before we even actually hit the record button for what we're doing here, you and I both agreed summer solstice, both of us were starting out here in a low energy way. I want to know, how have you elevated? Because you obviously are higher energy than I am too, when we started. How has that been like? We're just pulling energy from the universe, or what do you think's going on here?
I'm channeling my higher self. I just asked my higher self to come forth and be able to share, what is on the divine heart that is Lois, and just channeling through. And that's what I always ask now, and why I even do impromptu podcasts is I tapped into that superconscious creator. And when you come from a place of that heart space, you just let it flow, and then the energy goes. And yeah, yeah, I felt
I would like to tell our viewers that this was all thought out in advance, and we knew we were going to talk about all these things. What has really happened here isn't just the way you and I both operate. Is we are more interested in the theme than we are interested in specifics, because we feel, I know you feel the same way, as we feel that the conversation will reach the people who need to hear it.
yeah. Can I say something maybe to those people that who have ears will hear
Sure.
something that not everyone will understand? But I did a meditation program years ago, and it was called Ascension, and it's a deeper, more science based, but still, works for any religious group or any spiritual group, whatever. It's very healing, and it was one of the tools that I started to. I was really starting to be like, something's not right here, and this was like 2016. And then as I've been going through this, I call it my awakening, really, I started seeing all these different YouTube videos and people talking about this 5D ascension. So I'm just going to throw it out there. If there's anyone listening
Mhm.
who has heard of this 5D ascension and you truly feel called to talk to someone about it, please talk to me, because you're not weird, you're not going crazy, and it actually is also your super conscious reaching out to you to say, hey, go talk to Lois or talk to someone, because it's happening. It's real. It's not woo woo. It's
Well,
not
it's happening
esoteric.
throughout society. Again, going back to the Great Resignation, it is the 5D.
Global. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the heart centered stuff. And I didn't know if you wanted to go there, but
No, but go ahead and do the summary of each of the D's as you know them, and if I want, I'll pile something on there. But I think, let it come from somebody besides me these days. So,
Well, I'm going to keep it really simple.
okay.
Okay. So 3D, this is Lois's perception of it.
Mhm.
Okay. And I'm not saying that my definition is correct for all of society. It's my
Mhm.
definition. 3D is where I was stuck. 3D was about the money, about the doing, about society as it has been structured, that problem solving, that lower vibration, lower energy, lower consciousness.
Mhm.
4D is that next level where if you're feeling like the 3D isn't for you, or and again, that making money for the sake of money and feeling maybe a little lost, dazed, and confused, not quite sure about what's going on, that means you've started moving into the 4D. And when you get into the 5D, that's when we're talking. I don't know if you, I'm going to move here. Like, we're talking, you know, 5D sales is going to be telepathy. Meet someone and they hire you on the spot because you are plugged in to divine consciousness like nobody's business. You
Mhm.
won't even need a freaking website. People are going to find you, they're going to call you because you are divinely connected, not because you have a really great motto or slogan or podcast. That's the 5D way that we're heading into. And that is ultimately what I want to help people also be able to get to if they are on and open to that path.
Right. There's a way I actually talk about the 1D through the 5D in terms of the history of humanity. It's like you look at the 1D, this D stands for dimension. The one-dimensional aspect of humanity is when we were hunter-gatherers, strictly a surviving. I shouldn't say
Right.
strictly. There was room for somebody to be an artist and shaman and all these other things. So there were things past that. But if you just look at the rough aspects of how society existed back then, it was a survivor hunter-gatherer thing. Then it was agriculture, 2D. Then it was industrial, 3D, and then some stuff in between. But but ultimately, then
Mhm.
recently it's been technology and information. So that's the 4D, and the 5D is we all realize we're still not happy, so we're looking for the higher connection to make it all worthwhile.
Yeah, and then you can go all the way 6 to 90. My husband is studying that right now. And we have mentors who actually hang out in the 8D space. So if you want to get really esoteric, call me. We jam with that kind of stuff. And anyway, I could go on for a little bit, but I just want you guys to know if that calls to you, I
Yeah.
know I'm going to be
So
talking and coaching more on that.
so let's put this in it. So for anybody who wants to reach out to you, and I think it should be everybody who hears this show. But if anybody wants to reach out to you, then go to our card, and I'll make sure that that information is available. I'm gonna be putting up juicy information, quotes and things like that that will support our conversations here and also support people connecting. And then in the process of all of that, um, there will be information for how you can reach Lois. Now, she could give out a number or email with and just don't write it down. Just remember the effective way, and I'll get you the link for that as we're going through this. Hey, Lois, are you going to come back? You are, right?
Sure. Why
Okay.
not? There's always more. You talk to me in a month from now, and I might have transformed into another butterfly. So you probably will need to have me come back.
Okay. Are you going to come back as a butterfly? Is that what you're going to do? So
Anything is possible.
so I thought you already were a butterfly, by the way. So you were cocooned. You were cocooned, and now the metamorphosis has taken place. But maybe it will be is you'll be working on the nectar or something. I don't know. So
Yeah, or I'll be channeling someone else. You never know.
okay. Well, so let's do this. Let's make sure you come back. Let's just make sure we just one more time talk about the fact the theme was what is truly mind or true mindset. I think people should have some idea that mindset isn't just purely about intellectual willpower thing. That's the gist of where we were going with this. That the mindset we need for success in everything, quality relationships, money as a byproduct, abundance of whatever you want to talk about. It can't be just money. Abundance isn't just money, right? So I would just say abundance of high quality relationship, abundance of love, abundance of whatever you need in your journey, whatever is appropriate for your journey, is a byproduct of having a healthy mindset, which is all of the minds of our journey, not just your intellectual portion of your brain. So, okay. Any final thoughts you want to share with the audience before we wrap up?
I always close with this quote, and I'm going to expand it. This is the first time I've done this, Brian, so your audience gets the first version of this. But I think on the last time I was on your show, your radio show, I usually close with something that I was inspired by Jim Rohn, and then I made it my own. So discipline your disappointments and never give up. And I'm going to add today on going within to find yourself. So as you have these disappointments, you're building this discipline, understanding that that is a part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And don't give up on being willing to go within and be curious about those disappointments, and don't take them, too personal. It's just that there's a lesson in there for you to
It's
open your mind and to help you connect with your heart.
Yeah, so I'll add to that. Those things that are disappointing are your lessons, not your identity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So I'm so glad we had this conversation today. I'm so glad that we both are a little bit more energetic than we started. So whatever that was, I don't know. Something from the universe was slowing us down there.
Well, I always say
Okay.
1 + 1 is 3, and now we've been sharing this energy, just like this
Mhm.
image, right? And so we're creating.
It's actually 11, just so you know.
I know there's the 1 + 1 is 11. I even saw someone on a t-shirt. Anyway, I
Yeah.
won't go there.
Well, anyway, so you and I, we could probably just keep on going.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well, thank you so much for having me.
I have to work on a sign off for the show. Because on the other show I have my sign off, and then I actually was thinking about this. Is that, hey everybody, just stay connected. And we'll make sure that you're alert to all the other shows by making sure you hit the subscribe and like button for this episode. And we're looking forward to having you back, Lois. And I think it's probably time for me to come on when you're ready for something. Just let me know. We'll have a conversation on your podcast.
Love it. Perfect.
Hey, everybody, have a great, great, great experience. And make sure when you're going out and seeking your success that you're always keeping your heart in mind. Have a great day.
Bye.
If I could find the stop sharing button.
Yeah, sometimes is it like at the top?
Yeah.